Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
And we are back with ATDC Radio, broadcasting live down here at ATDC. This is so much fun. It beats the heck out of working down here, doesn't it?
Amen.
This is going to be a fantastic segment. Both returned guests, no strangers to the Business Radio X microphone. We're going to get a chance to catch up with and visit with Corbett, Gilliam, and with Sid Mookerji. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hello.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
So, Sid, it's been a while since we talked. What are you up to? You've got 2 or 3 tentacles into this ATDC ecosystem. Yeah, tell us about what you're doing here.
Yeah, absolutely. My past experience has been that of an entrepreneur in the retail space. I used to work with retailers and e-commerce providers. Had a pretty significant size company, 3,000 people in 8 countries. Sold the company, exited, and then I have been working with the mission of trying to create an innovation ecosystem for retail, and I want to make Atlanta the hub for that. So there are 2 aspects to this. One being what I'm doing through the Mookerji Foundation, and the Mookerji Foundation has made a gift to the Georgia Tech Foundation, which in turn has resulted in a retail tech focus vertical here at ATDC. And then the other is Silicon Road, and Silicon Road is basically a fund, an accelerator, a place to sponsor research at Georgia Tech, and basically create, again, a place where retailers, researchers, startups can all meet to talk and discuss how innovation in retail is happening or should happen.
So now what's your kind of view of retail in today's world? It seems there's a lot of attention to retail. And you're reading on one hand, a lot of retailers are going out of business. And then you're seeing the growth, and today or yesterday was Amazon Prime Day. So e-commerce seems to be going gangbusters. How is that all kind of fitting in your world, that ecosystem?
Yes, retail is being disrupted. That's probably an understatement. And the first thing, let's step back. Okay, now it's not that people are buying any lesser.
Right. People are still buying. That's still
People
happening.
are buying more than ever before,
right?
The population of the world is increasing and everybody wants something.
And more and more people are coming out of poverty, so they have money to buy things.
Absolutely. Exactly. We, in general, are getting more affluent and we definitely have a lot more money to spend. And so we are buying things. Now, what is changing is how we are buying things, right? I mean, this old way of buying things in a mall and driving up, parking in the parking lot, going out there. And, if you don't get what you want, we'll be back tomorrow. Well, that whole way of thinking has changed, right? I mean, it has become where, I'm going to go to the mall maybe to try out a suit, see if I like the way the texture feels, see if it fits me. But guess what? If I don't find my exact fit, I don't find the exact color that I like, I'm going to just go online and buy it from, one of several. Obviously, Amazon is being one of them.
Right.
So just the nature of how people are buying is changing.
So now because of you have these kind of an Amazonian focus of the world where you have this big entity and people think they're buying from Amazon, but in actuality, a lot of times they're not buying from Amazon. Amazon's just the conduit to get the stuff they want. But it is a firm that's actually got the stuff and sending it to them, right? But they just call it Amazon.
That's right. I mean, but, again, Amazon is probably no different than Macy's, right? So Macy's also gets the merchandise from other manufacturers and then sells it to the ultimate customers. Mm-hmm. And Amazon is doing the same thing. Now, Amazon will have what you're looking for every single time. If you are a Macy's or a Sears, that's a lot more difficult because you have limited, square footage in which you can store the merchandise that somebody might be looking for. So here is where technology comes in. And where we can potentially use, things like artificial intelligence, machine learning to kind of predict that you walking into a store, what is it that you will be looking for most likely? And some of the retail chains have mastered that, and some others are still catching up.
Now, how do you kind of view the when the mall experience or the shopping experience and the browsing goes away? where does that kind of sense of discovery where you stumble upon these things occur? Because a lot of times, like you said, I'm looking for something. You're able to, through technology, have the thing that I'm looking for available for me when I want it. But where does that sense of just kind of stumbling upon or discovering come into play? Because there's retailers like a Costco or some of these others where they build in this kind of treasure hunt, this kind of experience where I find things and I discover it and I win. That comes into play.
That and just the social experience, right? I mean,
Right.
And especially going into a mall on a Saturday afternoon, it's a nice experience, right? It's probably 100 degrees outside. You're going into a mall and, maybe meeting some friends over there, especially if, teenagers. I mean, this is a great place to hang out. Now, having said all that, the browsing and the social experience will never go away. I think this whole concept that the physical retail will completely disappear is probably a myth, in my opinion, anyway. And just because there are also certain categories of things that we will probably not buy online very often. You probably will not buy $1,000 suit online, right? You'll probably want to go and try it out. Nice shoes. But some of the lower value merchandise.
Well, what about fruit? Are you going to buy a peach?
Exactly, right? Exactly. So I think that there are certain categories of things which we will never buy online, but the experience has to be made better. Mm-hmm. And there are many, many retailers that are working towards that.
Is that where you see the opportunity for the retailer? Is that they got to really think of themselves kind of like Disney-esque in the sense that you better give me a compelling reason to go get in my car, to drive, and to come there. There has to be something I'm getting outside of just the stuff I want to buy.
Correct. First of all, you got to give me the stuff I'm going out there to buy. That's the first thing.
So table stakes. Right.
That is called merchandising, right? So that needs to be extremely accurate. Has not been in the past. And the second is, once you are there, you got to give me a more complete experience. And there are so many different concepts. Georgia Tech is doing some wonderful research where they are saying, hey, you know what? Why don't we make malls for people that are in the physical exercise frame of mind, right? So you go there and you buy sports-related items. Maybe there is a running track right there. Maybe there is a gym in that same location. So you're no longer going there just to buy a pair of sneakers. You're going there for the entire experience, and you probably are going to go there during a lunch break, if you happen to be one of the health freaks.
Right.
So there are those kinds of concepts that are coming out. There are many, many other concepts that are being tried out. For example, maybe a holographic runway, a ramp, if you will, right? And where the model is you.
So that I'm kind of immersed into that world.
Exactly, right? And these are all things that you need a lot of space for. So there is a lot of those things which actually have huge potential in retail, in commerce in general. And while we are talking about the front end experience, there is a lot that also needs to happen on the back end. Mm-hmm. In other words, think about the warehouses. So the retailers have these big warehouses which are several football fields in size, and in earlier days, you just basically would put a bunch of shirts in boxes and send them to different stores where they would sell. But now, well, guess what? A lot of the work that happens in these warehouses is one shirt and one tie, maybe, right? And if you're going to make this poor guy walk across the length of that warehouse, it's expensive and inefficient. So, they have to think about, how are people buying things? What are they buying together? That's one thing. And the second is, where does automation play into this? Mm-hmm. So there is, for example, a startup called Kiva that was bought by Amazon, which is robots in the warehouse, right? So there are no human beings really running around for the most part in warehouses, but the merchandise is being picked out by the robot based on GPS, etc., and brought to the person who eventually picks and packs.
Now, what about so there's this? You need to have this kind of mass customization, right? There, where does 3D printing and things like that come into play, where they're building my thing I want just on demand when I want it, instead of guessing that in 18 months I'm going to like this thing, and I'm going to like it. Not only am I going to like it, I'm going to like it in purple with stripes.
Absolutely. And 3D printing as well as robotic manufacturing are two big things which are, again, changing the world of manufacturing even. I'm an investor in a company in town called Software Automation, Georgia Tech Technology. and the wear is WEAR. And they have robots that actually completely have automated the manufacturing process for apparel. Okay, and they call those robots sewbots because they're sewing.
They're sewing, right?
They're sewing,
cool.
and it's one of the hottest things out there.
Wow.
Right, and they basically now the long-term view of this is that hopefully they'll be able to put this in a store where you go in there and say what you want, right? And it's no longer about large and extra large and medium. It's about a size which is your size that this will be manufactured to.
And then, so how far away are we from that kind of from that dream coming true?
It's here, but it's not yet as efficient or as boxed in a manner that it can be put into a store. But these guys are doing very, very well and have many customers.
So now, when you're talking about retail, we're talking a lot about apparel. Is retail touches other areas as well? Are you seeing the kind of the gap change, kind of shrink in other areas?
Can you
like Home Depot or those kind of where there's stuff, not just clothes?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It is everywhere. One of the big challenges I'm sure that you have faced, if I'm just the Home Depot example, is you go in there and you're looking your grandma is in her home and her refrigerator is showing a change filter light, right? So how is she going to figure out what filter to get?
Right.
And then where is it actually located? So once again, computer vision comes in, right? So you can take a picture of the fridge and hopefully somebody at Home Depot will be able to tell you, a computer at Home Depot will be able to tell you exactly which filter is required to change, and then gives you step-by-step instructions as to how to change it. So those kinds of things, it all exists, but it's all very kind of thrown in different places, and bringing it all together is a huge opportunity for people like that.
But is it also a play for the Internet of Things where the refrigerator tells you, hey, this filter ABC 123 needs to be filled, and then it's contacting
and it's on
place.
aisle 4 at your local Home
Or
Depot.
it just is do you want it delivered, and then it comes to your house.
That's right. Hey, Alexa, get me that filter. Exactly. Yes.
So you're seeing more and more of the convergence like that?
Absolutely. And this is one of the more interesting things which is happening today. We are a very brand sensitive demographic in the United States, right? Brands mean a lot to us. But more and more, just for convenience, especially for the lower value items, it's much easier to say, Alexa, I need coffee. Right. And then Alexa figures out the coffee that you like and what you're most likely not send back, and they will ship it to you.
But even beyond that, like just basic essentials, like I need a USB-C cord.
Oh,
am I brand loyal to a certain brand for that, or I just need a USB-C cord?
That's right. But you probably are brand loyal in terms of toothpaste.
Right.
But the thing is that that's why the CPG companies spend tons and tons on marketing, of course. Now, looks like we are getting to a world where that will not count as much.
Are you seeing that? Is that a trend where you're seeing
absolutely.
Brand is less important as it was maybe 20 years ago?
Not yet, but that's exactly where Amazon is going. So Amazon's the next big thing for Amazon is basically convert everything to voice recognition, right? So voice is an extremely important part of the strategy of all these big internet first players in retail and otherwise.
And then but is the brand I'm trusting Amazon then?
That's right. You're trusting Amazon to bring you something which you like.
Mm-hmm. Where you're saying that like they're in Trader Joe's, they have the Trader Joe's brand in a lot of things, and I'm trusting that Trader Joe's brand or Costco Kirkland brand
absolutely.
is good enough for me that they're vetting these people enough that if they're going to put their name on it, it's going to be good enough for me.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening.
So then that causes a disruption for those brands then.
The CPG companies, absolutely, yes.
And are you seeing that happen?
Yes, it's happening all the time. It happens right now in a store, right? But it's happening even online. The online problem, actually, people, if you think that the online guys are having a fabulous ride, that's not true as well. So they are trying to figure out some answers also. So the big thing is that, when you walk into a store and you go there to, say, buy a pair of shoes, as you pass through the pant aisle, you might stop and take a look and maybe buy a pair of jeans. You might buy a shirt. It's much less likely to happen online. So this whole concept of kind of cross-selling, etc., is something that online e-commerce players are trying to figure out how to overcome.
Now, when you talk about the word retail, are you including kind of restaurants and things like that, or your retail is different?
No, we have a very broad definition of retail. There are common problems being faced by all these different players. So at a very high level, anybody who is kind of selling stuff that they're not manufacturing themselves, we call retail. Mm-hmm. So they have to store it somewhere. Maybe they might go through a small process of reconstructing something before it is being sold. But in general, that's the definition that we use.
So then retail would touch like the movie industry where Netflix, you would go into a movie theater to have an experience of watching a movie. And now people are using e-commerce, so Netflix to watch it in their house and not dealing with going there. And so the movie theater has to reinvent themselves to create that compelling reason to come inside.
There is that. Yeah. I mean, I think that once you get into entertainment, there's probably a greater degree of specialization. Which may not apply to every aspect of retail, right? But, in general, where you're looking at merchandise, physical merchandise especially, that you are having to keep stored in some way, right? Move it between locations, and then eventually that last mile delivery is usually what we consider to be retail.
So now that you have this retail tech initiative here at ATDC, what do you need more of now? Are the universities kind of embracing this and putting talent or creating curriculum around this?
Yes, there is that. Excuse me. The big challenge is this. The big challenge is that there is a big gap between academia and industry, right? So you have, on one hand, you have a lot of great research that is going on. And that basically gets put on the shelf for several years. Ultimately, it's rediscovered and then put into industry. Okay. Now, one of the things that we are working on at Silicon Road is working with some of the smartest guys in Georgia Tech and trying to find the kinds of technologies that they're working on today and bring it, quicker to the industry itself. So that's the biggest thing that we are trying to achieve out of being here at Georgia Tech in this ecosystem. Mm-hmm.
So now you're finding that they are coming up with ideas that are kind of commercializable?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's amazing. For example, I mean, we are working with Dr. Benoit Montreux. He's a very smart Canadian guy living here. I mean, of course, now he's American. And he's working on what he calls the physical internet. It's basically supply chain 2.0, and where he has using artificial intelligence and machine learning kind of determining what can be put in the store, right? So because you have limited square footage, right, to store stuff. So so he calls that display optimization. So a right mix of SKUs that you can put in a store, taking into account the people who are likely to walk in. And the second is what he calls warehouse optimization. So what is it that you can put in other stores in the same city? Okay, so that even if I can't give you the exact shirt that you are looking for, I can say, I have it in that other store and it'll reach your home before you reach home. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then finally, of course, I mean, there are some things which are esoteric. Nobody might have it at that time. They might say, well, it'll take you 3 days to get it. So that kind of optimization is pretty amazing stuff. So that's one thing. We have Dr. Seth Hutchinson. He's the head of the Institute of Robotics and Intelligent Machines, and he's been working on how to automate an entire store. Okay, and I mean, again, very, very smart person, and also extremely excited about kind of what we are doing here and wants to work with us. So there is him, there is the cybersecurity group, there is the blockchain group, and so on and so forth that we are working with.
So it's touching a lot of different areas. Retail is very broad. So you need this kind of specialized knowledge. And then you're helping kind of create bridges, so you're connecting people that maybe wouldn't have thought retail and then putting them all together.
Absolutely. Yes, that's right.
So now, who'd you bring with you?
I brought Corbett Gilliam. Corbett is a managing director with Silicon Road.
Welcome, Corbett.
Thank you.
So now, what's your take? How'd Sid do, first of all? I know you were worried about him.
Sid is great all the time.
So where do you see the opportunities?
What's interesting about retail, I've worked with Sid for about 2.5 years here at ATDC on the Industry Connect program, and focusing on retail and launching pilots with retail, we call them enterprises like Macy's and Bell's and those types of retail establishments. And it's such a broad topic where, and we have a lot of focus. And as Sid was saying, from the supply chain side to the customer engagement side to the e-commerce to customer engagement, customization, experience. To elaborate a little bit more on what Sid was talking about with retail, we're seeing a big trend with even sports franchises. So one of the groups we're working with, the Atlanta Braves, in the venue SunTrust Park, and they want to customize the experience for each consumer that's there or spectator that's there. They have the retail establishment. They have the restaurants, the bars, but then inside the actual venue, they want to create that experience where if it's your birthday, for example, and you're a season ticket holder, you get treatment. They know just from predictive analytics and your profile that they have on file that you're a Dale Murphy fan, and they're able to, let's say, customize and give you a signed ball by Dale Murphy. Mm-hmm. That creates that experience that's memorable.
It's that surprise and delight. They're able to leverage technology to create those kind of memories.
Correct. And we're seeing that not only within sports, but also in retail to create. Everybody wants that customized experience where they want to feel special.
Needed. Right.
Exactly. And that's what Amazon does a great job at is predicting what you want.
If you like this, you might like that.
Exactly.
I mean, that sounds simple, but it's expected nowadays.
And then lowering the threshold of actually purchasing and making it easy to, a one button press, or you would say you buy washing detergent from Amazon. You got the button next to your washing machine.
Right.
You can press it, and then it drop ships right to your home.
So now what are the things that are keeping retailers up at night? Because it sounds like they're getting attacked from multiple areas.
I think some of the things that we've seen, one great example is a large retail group that we've worked with. They have a big disconnect from their in-store to their e-commerce. So an example, you find a red dress on their e-commerce site. You go into the store, ask the associate, they're going to have no idea if that red dress is actually on the floor. And because there's 100,000 items on the floor. And more than likely that associate's been there about 2 weeks because of the 100% turnover rate. So there's a big disconnect there. And
it's hard to create those memorable moments when the person just started 2 weeks ago.
Right. So there's a breakdown in that. And I think for traditional brick and mortar retail, starting there, that customer engagement piece, and then customizing the experience. And there's a bunch of different ways, but that's critical. That's actually happened to me and a lot of others, but it's apparent, but I've never really had that issue with an Amazon because I can always find what I need. And if I can't, it's recommended to me. Mm-hmm. And then it's just a real, easy way to shop. And then as, Amazon is proving with actual brick and mortar, the purchase of Whole Foods, they're meshing the two together where that's creating an interesting solution to, it's not only online, but you're able to go in and experience it, touch the fabrics or the produce and really go that route, and then order it online or do a pickup with their locker system, or as we've talked about, their drone delivery system that may be coming in the future.
So now where do you see the opportunity? Like when you're doing your work at Silicon Road, what are the things that you're trying to solve?
Really looking at it as a whole. We have lots of conversations about just trends, looking down the pipe 3 to 5 years where everything from third-party delivery services are going to the whole supply chain, automation, IoT. There's a lot of conversation around IoT sensors around, in a big box retailer we're talking to on their freezer systems, on how to monitor their the meats, the frozen meats, and making sure it's at a consistent temperature 24 hours around the clock. And so that's one thing. Air filtration. Alternative energy is another one for running large box stores. Like I said, the customer engagement, but the physical internet piece, there's so many different variables to that we see great opportunity. Payments is another opportunity that we haven't even talked about today, that there's a lot of opportunity within that. Being able to buy things, the automated stores where you walk in, get what you need, and it dings your card. Those types of payment systems.
So now, but it seems like there's kind of a front of the house, back of the house. There's a lot of challenges with supply chain. There's a lot of opportunities with supply chain. There's a lot of challenges with the fintech elements of this. There's opportunities. Customer experience. Like, how do these retailers, it seems like so many different aspects of their business is changing so rapidly. How can they possibly embrace all of this and be good at it and move fast enough? Some of these businesses are 100-year-old businesses, are used to doing business a certain way. How can they possibly stay on top of this stuff in order to make the most out of it and survive?
Yeah, I'll get that. It's innovation, and it is rapid innovation. Unfortunately, most of them really can't do it in-house. And the reason that they can't do it in-house is if you are, like you said, a 200-year company, 200-year-old company, and you have 10,000 people working for you, you have to have the bureaucratic processes in place, right? Which then, on the other hand, slows you down.
Right.
So, that's where somebody like Silicon Road can be helpful, right? Because, they have to rely heavily on the entrepreneurs, the people with the 5-person startups that can solve a specific problem for them at a relatively low risk in terms of kind of, their investment, et cetera, et cetera. So that is the direction that we are taking them in. Now, is everybody coming along? No. Some of them don't still see that as being the right route to go in. But I think more and more, I think that's the only way in which they'll survive.
Because they can't wait for something fully baked to come across their desk, right? They have to be constantly trying different things, knowing that a good percentage of them aren't going to work out.
It'll take them 10 years to get something very simple done.
Right?
Exactly, right.
So they have to take these kind of risks, and you're talking about an industry that is kind of risk averse in a lot of ways.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's being smart about it, right? It doesn't need to be very risky for them. In fact, I would say that when they say, we are going to allocate 50,000 square feet to build the store of the future, I think that's a bigger risk for them than to invest in 10 startups, if you ask me, right? Because you, with the 10 startups, are able to really take advantage of the passion of 10 entrepreneurs and solve 10 big problems, which can actually be differentiators for you now. Mm-hmm. Right. Whereas if you're going to try to do it all yourself, it'll take you 20 years. And by that time,
you're out of business.
You're out of business. Exactly.
So it sounds like there's tremendous opportunity, and it sounds like you're looking for partners that are kind of forward thinking and that want to kind of lead the way rather than be followers.
That's right. Exactly.
And so that's what you need more of?
We have a lot of interest in this already. Everybody sees the value in something like this. We have been bringing in a lot of these retailers here to ATDC and also to Silicon Road. We have had multiple conferences. And again, there's a lot of traction. The signs are extremely positive. We have done the first close of our fund, and we are ready to invest in the first few companies as well. We have a cohort of companies also in India, by the way. So that's the other piece of this where innovation is not geographically limited, right? So we are going to bring in startups and innovation from all over the world to be a part of this program.
So now if somebody wanted to get a hold of Silicon Road, what's the coordinates there?
Simple enough, siliconroad.vc or SID at siliconroad.vc and Corbett at siliconroad.vc.
And then if somebody at ATDC or is thinking about putting together a startup that's retail-oriented, can they connect with you through ATDC?
They can do that, or we are on the 4th floor of the Centergy building, Suite 450. So
you're right here in the building.
We are right here in the building. Yes.
So what's your favorite part about being part of the ATDC ecosystem?
Oh, I mean, it's a wonderful, wonderful, very energetic ecosystem. There's a lot of well-meaning people, entrepreneurs who have been successful, who are here giving back. There is huge amount of energy with these startups. I did a company for 25 years and, heads down in my office, and I didn't know that this exciting world existed. It's just wonderful. I mean, the entire leadership here has also been very supportive of what we have done over the past 2 or 3 years and continues to be so.
Well, Sid and Corbett, thank you so much for sharing your story today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Lee Cantor for Stone Payton. We will see you all next time on ATDC Radio.